exercised, all right? So all these verbs in simple past. And what's the past participle? For regular verbs, we have to keep the same as simple past. For example, finished, stopped, and waited. So we have the same. So the simple past and the past participle of regular verbs is the same. Finish, finished, finished. Stopped, stopped, stopped. Wait, waited, waited is the same. Okay, don't forget the ed, the pronunciation of the ed endings. Remember, like the t as in worked, as in finished, as in kissed, as in washed. The sound as, for example, smiled, as rubbed, as exercised, as sneezed is the same. And it as waited, or added, or painted. Remember? So that's pretty simple. That's the past participle. But what happens with the regular verbs? Remember, the simple past of see, it's saw. The simple past of make, it's made. And the simple past of put, it's put. But what happens with the past participle? We have to check the list. Remember the list? The list that you have in the booklet of the second module. So on the second module, you have the list of irregular verbs, and there you have the past participle, which is the third column. What's the past participle of see? If you check the list, or if you may remember that, let's see, saw, and what's the past participle?
Sing.
Seen. Make, made is the same. And put. But there are some others that change. For example, drive a car. Yesterday I drove a car in the past, and the past participle, I have driven a car. Drive, drove, driven, for example. See, saw, seen. Let's see what else. Go, for example, it's really irregular. Go in the simple past is went, and in the past participle it is gone. Okay, this is just the introduction. So remember, past participle of regular verbs, we just have to add ed as the simple past. But what happens with irregular verbs? We have to check the list. Past perfect tense or present perfect tense. So we're going to use the past participle for these two verb tenses, past perfect and present perfect. Today we're going to focus on the present perfect. As I said before, the present perfect, it's an action that started in the past and still exists in the present. Okay, look at this. Stop, stopped, and stopped. Let's see. Go, went, and what's the past participle of go?
Been. Gone.
Gone. It's gone. Take, took, and what's the past participle?
Taken.
Excellent. Taken. Take, took, taken. Write, wrote, and
Written.
written. Written. No writing. Written. Write, wrote, written. Very good. He has finished all his work. Okay, now. I'm sorry?
Excuse me. ¿Se puede volver un momentito, please?
Sure. This one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ready, teacher. Thank you.
Okay, that's important to have your the irregular verb list handy. All right? It's important to have it again. He has finished all his work. Okay, how do we form the present perfect tense? It's pretty simple. Trust me, it's really easy. It says, number one, I have worked very hard this year. If we analyze this sentence, guys, I have worked very hard. What does it mean? That I began in the past. I began in January, but now I am still working. You see? That's why that's present perfect. It has started in the past and continues up to the present. I have worked very hard this year. The students have worked hard. Alex has worked very hard. And that's how we have to make the statements. How do we make the statements? Remember the two groups. I, you, we, and they. Group number one and group number two, he, she, and it. So, group number one, I, you, we, and they. We are going to use have plus past participle. That's the formula. Have plus past participle. I, you, we, and they. And the rest, he, she, and it, they use has plus past participle. Look at the formula down here. Have or has plus the past participle. So which ones with have? I, you, we, and they, and he, she, and it has. So let's look at this. I've, you've, with, they've gone home. What's this? These are the contractions. What happens with the contractions? When I have this auxiliary, we can make or we can have a contraction. What's the contraction? Apostrophe plus VE. And what happens with he, she, and it has? The contraction would be the apostrophe with the S. That's what we're going to see later. That's the contraction. Pronoun plus have equals V. That's why I say I've, you've, with, they've, and the past participle. I've gone home. You've gone home. They've gone home, or we've gone home. She's or he's gone home. In this case, we have pronoun plus has equals apostrophe with the S. So, we have to be careful here. Why? Because I don't want you to get confused with the verb to be. For example, she's a doctor. No, she is a doctor. I'd say she's a doctor, he's a doctor, his student. You see, when we use these contractions, how do we identify if we are using a verb to be or present perfect? Because we have a past participle. That's the key. So if I have a past participle, I immediately know that we are using present perfect and not verb to be. She is gone, he is gone, or she has gone, or he has gone. But this one, it's a little bit faster. She's gone, he's gone home. I've gone home. Let's see some additional examples. It's been hot all week. It's been, right? Been, what's been? It's the past participle of the verb to be. So, verb to be. In the present, am, is, and are. In the past, was, and will. Past participle, been. Been. But not been. If you say been, it's frijol. Alright? So in this case, when we use the word been, it's the short and quick sound. It's been. Okay? So no es corto y rápido. Been. No been. Been. It's been hot all day. I've been here for a long time. Been. You see? It's a quick and short sound. Been. No been. Been. What happens with negative sentences? With negative sentences, we're going to use have not or has not, depending on the pronoun. Or also, I can use contractions. I have not gone home yet, or Fatima has not gone home. Look at the contraction. Have, or at the formula, have and has, not, and past participle, or I can use contractions. I haven't gone home yet, or Fatima hasn't gone home yet. Here, down here, you have the contractions. Have not equals haven't, has not equals hasn't. Okay? Hasn't or haven't. Also, what happens with questions? The questions are pretty simple. With the questions, we only have to use have or has at the beginning of the sentence, and everything will remain the same. Have you read the report? Have you read? You see? And the sentence would be, you have read the report. In a question, have you read the report? How do I answer the questions? Has Marcy gone home? Let's go back. Have you read the report? The answer, the short answers, yes, I have, or no, I haven't. We still use have or has. These are the auxiliaries of the present perfect. In this case, I don't have to use do or does or is or are or is and aren't. No, we have to use have or has. Haven't or hasn't. Has Marcy gone home? Has Marcy. Why? Because Marcy is a woman. So we have to use has. Has Marcy gone home? How long have you worked there? For information questions, how long have you worked there? How long? Remember, it's time. How long have you worked there? 2 weeks, 5 years. For example, guys, if I ask you, how long have you worked at Edwards? You would say 2 years, 5 years, 3 years, 6 months, 8 years. You see, how long have you worked there? That's an information question. Look at the formula. Have or has plus subject plus past participle. All right, that's going to be the formula. Have or has plus subject plus past participle. Always past participles. That's why the past participles are really important now. From now on, we have to study the past participles, especially those of irregular verbs. Have you read all this article? Have you read all this article? No, I haven't. I have only read a few pages. You see, no, I haven't. Have you read all this? Have you read all this article? No, I haven't. I have only read a few pages. I have only read. Remember that this is the past participle of read. Remember, we have read, read, and read. The spelling is the same, but the pronunciation is different. I only have read, or I have only read a few pages. Short answers. Look, have, haven't. Yes, I have, or no, I haven't. Has Kyun finished her homework? Yes, she has. She did it after school. Or no, she hasn't. It depends on the situation. Short answers, has or hasn't. Has or hasn't. Look at this. Present perfect. How do we make a sentence using present perfect, using these words? You, touch, and ever. We have to start with have or has. You. Have you ever, and what's the past participle of touch? It's regular. Touched. Have you ever touched a snake? What means ever? Ever means in your whole life. Okay? Any time in your life. Alguna vez. Have you ever touched a snake? No what? Never. Touch. No, I
Haven't.
What else? No, I have never. I've never touched a snake. What happens when we have never? Remember that never, it's never, it's gonna be an adverb. That means negative. What happens if I say, no, I haven't never? I have two negatives. I have double negative, and that's not possible. I haven't never. No, I have never touched a snake. Okay, so when we have to use never, this auxiliary goes affirmative. Because if I say I haven't never, we have two negatives in the same sentence, and that's not possible. Now we have Justin see ever a shark. How can we make a question? Have or has?
Has.
Has who?
Has Justin.
Has Justin. Then Justin what? Ever?
Ever saw.
What's the past
No,
participle?
seen.
Seen, yes. Has Justin ever seen a snake? Has Justin ever seen a snake? Yes. He what? He have or he has?
He has.
Yes, he has. He saw one near Cape Town, South Africa. What happens with the second sentence? In the second sentence, we have to give more specific information. But we're going to study this tomorrow. Okay? So when we have to use present perfect and simple past together. But today, we're just going to focus on the present perfect. Okay? Yes, he has. He saw one near Cape Town, South Africa. What's the meanings? There we have the meanings of the present perfect. Tyler has taken his first steps, and Zoo hasn't walked by herself yet. Meaning one, something happened before now at an unspecified time. That's the first meaning. Tyler has already taken his first steps. That's meaning number one. Zoo hasn't walked by herself yet. All right? So she hasn't done that yet before. So it's not yet. Have you ever seen Zoo crawl? Como gatear. That's the meaning of crawl. Have you ever seen Zoo crawl? Occur before now or sometime in the past. Okay, now or sometime in the past. So remember the graphic I told you about the other day. Remember that we have the line, the timeline, today, the past, the present, and the future. So in this case, we have something occurred before now or sometime in the past. That's the first meaning. That's meaning number one. Okay, look at this. Here we have the graphic. Now, Tyler has already taken his first steps. Sue hasn't walked by herself yet, or have you ever seen Sue crawl? Before now. You see, as I showed you before now or sometime in the past. So this is now. So before now, that's the time. Mary has painted portraits many times. That's still meaning number one. She has painted portraits many times. So it means that she began in the past and she still paints portraits. She has painted many portraits or portraits many times. Her students have painted portraits twice. Activity repeated before noun and specified past time. Past times. Okay? Repeated actions. Mary has painted portraits many times. Her students have painted portraits twice. Look at the graphic again. Before now. Many times. You see? Before now. And meaning number two, a situation began in the past and continues to the present. I've been working since 8 o'clock. I've been working since 8 o'clock. What happens? At 8 o'clock, we began to work. And now it's 5:50 and we are still working. So we are working now too. That's why that's the meaning too. So that began in the past and continues to the future, to the present and to the future. I played the violin for 6 years. I learned to play 6 years ago and I still play it. You see, that's the explanation. I have played the violin for 6 years. So I began 6 years ago and now I still play the violin. Actually, I have classes later. So I have been doing this for many years, or for some years, in this case 6 years. Present perfect, stands for 4, past, and look at the arrow. It continues. It began in the past and continues up to the present. Since and for. What means since and for? Since, it's for specific time. Since 8 o'clock. Since 1992. Since yesterday. Since last month. And for, it's for a length of time. For 6 years, for 10 years, for 2 hours. That's not very specific. Since is more specific. That's the meaning of that. But again, we're gonna study the use of since and for later. I just want you to understand this. So, look at the graphic. I've been working since 8 o'clock. So at 8 o'clock, I began. Now, it's 5:50, and I may continue up to the future. You see? So from 8 to now, since 8 o'clock. Who has already taken the test? Meaning 1 or meaning 2. Something happened before now at a specified time or situation, began in the past and continues to the present. So if we analyze, it's going to be number 1 has already taken the test. So before now. Okay, como que ya lo hizo. So before now. But I've been studying since 8 a.m. So since 8 a.m. I have been studying. So I began at 8 and I'm still studying. It means, meaning number 2, that began in the past and continues to the present. That's basically it. What we have to remember about the present perfect. Rosa has been to Italy 3 times. What happens here? Before now, or meaning number 2. In this case would be meaning number 1. Something happened before now at an unspecified time. So we don't know. 3 times, but we don't know when. Was it many years ago? 2 years ago? 5 years ago? Yesterday? We don't know. That's why it's not specific time. Okay. Before we continue with this, let's get back to the book.